What's up YouTube? My name is Ruff and today we're going to be doing a breakdown of my remix of Tate McRae's song She's All I Wanna Be, which sounds like this. So now that we're in Ableton, this remix was done in two different project files. So right now I have like the production project file open. So we're gonna go through that first, then I'll open up the mixdown project file so you can see some of the processing and things that I did there to get this version to sound like the final version. So diving right in, we'll just kind of go through the vocal processing first. So this acapella I just found on the internet. It's not the greatest quality of all time, but it did the job. So as far as the processing on this acapella goes, I just did a low cut at 120 hertz, some saturation, some OTT, some soothe, just taking out some of the highs around 8K. And then a FabFilter Pro Q3, just taking out these frequencies. And then in the mixdown project, I did like all the reverb, delay, and echo. So this vocal. So I'm gonna mute that. And we'll just go over the production. So the first thing I wanna touch on is this full track group. There's this vinyl tube, which you probably won't be able to hear. And these birds. And this is something I've been doing as of recently, is I've been doing a vinyl and then what I call real world, so like a city or animals or nature, something that's like been recorded in the real world, and I'll just have them both run through the entire production super low in the mix. Like these are -6 and the group's -27, so it's like inaudible, but it's just like a nice feeling to know that you have the analog vinyl and then like something that was recorded in the real world both running through your production the whole time. Almost like if you like were recording in a real studio, everything, and the window was open a little bit, like just enough that it crept into the recording, but no one could really hear it. That's kind of what I try to achieve with this, and like no one will ever hear it, but it's just good to have. Then as far as the real atmosphere goes, in the verse, I had this public pool chatter, just people talking, with just some EQ. Just to add in, again, that real world texture. Then these two drones. Super low in the mix, but just to add like a nice spacey feeling. And the key with these atmospheric drones is it's all just about sample selection. Nurko has great ones, Albit, MHA, like they all have a lot of really good samples, but it's essential that you kind of keep them in a similar key. So this track is in D minor. So I grabbed these E minor ones and just pitched them down too, but you don't want to like find drone samples that are so far outside of the key you're working in that you got to pitch them like 8 semitones just to get in key. Then I also have this portal piano. So it's just a contact Alicia keys with an EQ taking out some of the lows, ducking around 1K, and then this portal by output, just adding a little bit of wobble with some more EQ and then sidechain. So that's just to give some rhythm to the verses because I kept them pretty empty with just the piano and the vocal. So I needed something to like give a little rhythm. So that's all I did. And then I sped it up here, which we'll get to. And that's all the atmosphere. So moving on to the chords. We just got this Labs piano. And this is the MIDI. Processing wise, I got Decapitator, just adding a little bit of drive, but not crazy on the dry wet knob. Then I got an EQ taking out some of the lows after Decapitator, some spread just to widen it in the stereo field a bit. Then we got Oxford Inflator just to bring it up in the mix and some sidechain. And then underneath, I have my infamous cool pad from Serum that's literally just a saw wave with this filter. And I have the gain on this utility slowly bringing it in with volume. And then what I'll usually do in pretty much every song, but I didn't do in this song, is I'll automate this filter to just open up like that. But I didn't do it in this track. Then effects wise, just some transitional stuff here. Nothing crazy. So the verse. And that's when the portal piano picks up and just does double time, just to add some more rhythm. And then I have this string that comes in, but an auto filter opens it up so it doesn't really appear till the next section, because I wanted to keep this part, the verse 1, leading into like the pre-chorus or orchestral drum section. I have it labeled here. I wanted to keep it pretty bare and empty and just let the vocal be the main focus, because the original starts so high energy and has like a lot of production going on right away. So I kind of wanted to, you know, since it's a remix, go the opposite route and keep it open and empty, and then bring the energy here. So what this section adds, you know, besides the drums obviously, is this Wurlitzer from Analog Labs Arturia with some EQ, OTT, SSSL compression, track spacer, sidechain to the piano to give some space, just to add some high end. Cool pad again, of course. Then this pad 2. Super low in the mix again, and then this choir from Serum from Echo Soundworks Coda, of course, with, you know, the following processing on it. And these are all just like very low in the mix because I didn't want to overpower the piano, but I wanted to just kind of give the illusion that there was more going on in this section in the high end than there was in the previous. So that's why they're there, but not very present. So versus, you know, like this section. So it's audible, but not overpowering. Then we bring in some bass. So we got 2 bass layers here. We got this respace from Sylenth. And we have this E-bass from Nexus. It's the E-bass 1. Then moving on to the drums, we got this kick with drum bus and EQ. Nothing insane on the processing there. Then the drums. We got a snare clap group. Processing wise, pretty bare, not gonna lie. Then we got this hi-hat with that little dip there. You'll see the velocity changes ever so slightly across the pattern just to make it feel like it's real. And then this sauce loop, which I don't even remember what it's from, but it's so swung and so nice that oof, it makes the drum. So if I solo with the kick, if I turn it off, it feels so staticky. It doesn't feel like there's the movement anymore. But if I bring it back, all the movement comes from that sauce loop. Then of some effects, you know, like downlifters, sweeps, and then these guitars from Contact. So the first one's Strummed Acoustic. So the Contact patch is the wide open on Strummed Acoustic with the wide open doubling sound preset, and then processing wise, EQ, a mid-side EQ boosting the highs. We got this CLA compressor on the acoustic guitar setting. We got some chorus that's being parallel processed. And then all this stuff's doing automation for like transitions and stuff. And then underneath, I got this nylon Nexus guitar, just playing the static chords, just to add something else underneath so it wasn't just this strummed acoustic. And to emphasize every time that chord changes. So this section again. So moving on to this section, all we have for the chords is the cool pad again, and this is where the automation comes in on the fill cutoff. So once it gets up to the drop, it opens up just to give some more tension. Nothing else in the chord section. Bring back the Sylenth Reese. Then the drums are these 2 stomps, both cashmere, of course. And then we got these claps. And then as we get to the second half, that's when we bring in these build-up drums here. And then as far as the guitars go, unfortunately, I did freeze all of them. They were contact strummed acoustic. They sound like this. There's 4 layers. And the reason why there's 4 layers is because I wanted them to be super wide and also super full. So I have panned all the way to the right and then panned all the way to the left, the lower octave. And then a little lower in volume, panned left and right in the higher octave. Processing wise, individually, there's nothing, but on the group, there's a lot, like a lot. So if I turn off all the processing, so let's go through these one by one. So I got the amp from Ableton on the clean setting. Dry wet's only at about 9% just to make it sound like it's going through an amp. Then we got saturation knob, just adding a bit of saturation. We've got OTT at 19% just to brighten it. We got an SSL compressor just to add some glue. We got guitar controlled dynamics Ableton glue compressor. We got an SSL channel EQ on the Dave Pensato acoustic guitar setting. Then we got this EQ taking out all these nasty frequencies. We got Soothe that's taming the highs. We got Fab Filter Pro Q with the subtle stereo enhancer just to widen it even more. Another Pro Q taking out these nasty frequencies. Then we got Track Spacer, multiple instances of Track Spacer, sidechain to all of the drums to duck under those stomps as well as the build kick. Then we got reverb parallel processed and we got automation on the utility gain and the EQ. So a lot of processing on the guitars in the chorus, but you know, sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do. Then we got these risers and the drop. So the vocal chop processing was pretty much exclusively done in the Mixdown project, which we'll go over. But basically in this project, EQ, some overdrive, some OTT, a lot of OTT, more EQ, sausage fattener, auto tune, and a filter. And this vocal chop came from the B. And then this E is the didn't think. And then this in it is also from the didn't. And then you put it all together. And then this is pitched up, I believe. No, this one's pitched down. That's from the bad, and that's from the that. So boom, vocal chops. Took a lot of trial and error to find ones that I was happy with. And then we got these Arps. So we got Contact Alicia Keys, and we got this grand piano Thin Air from Ableton. Processing on the group, we got saturation, Oxford inflator, EQ, reverb, auto pan, and a filter. No sidechain on those Art pianos. Not sure why I did that, but whatever. Maybe I did it in the mixdown. I don't even remember. On the drop chords, we got EQ, compression, and a filter. And then inside the group, we got... So we got white noise. We got 2 Leno atmospheres. And then we got the actual saw chords itself. So on the saw group, we got EQ, Oxford inflator, reverb, and utility automation. So layer 1, which is, in fact, an initial preset. Literally 9 voices of unison, detune, saw wave, nothing else. It's like, you don't need to go so crazy with the super saws. You really don't. Like, layer 2, Caslo Rhythmic Super Saw 2 in the higher octave. Together. And then the last layer, Caslo Large Super Saw And together, with this lead layer, I forgot to mention, which is an initial preset. Look at that, with the 9 voices of unison. Because I wanted, oh, that's why I did that. I wanted to control the volume of the higher layer separately from the like mids and lows. So I separated them. So there's your saws. But learn this from a Soul State Jaws live stream video. Cutting your super saws around 7K. So if I turn this off, you want to cut your saws off at 7K-ish, around there, and then throw the white noise in, because now you have control over that. If it's just here, there's not as much control as just, look, you have this white noise group, you can do whatever you want with it. So that's kind of the super sauce. Then I'll always add some pianos underneath. So a lot of saturation knob on these, almost 50%. And 2 layers, we got Nexus Ballad Grand Piano with Decapitator. Decapitator's pushing it on these as well. And then on this piano, this is Alicia Keys with, God, a lot of processing. And Korg M1 with a lot of processing. So drop a comment if you want me to make a video specifically on the processing on this. I literally made like an Ableton rack called Hard Hitting Chords Piano, because it's just like hard hitting chords piano. So that's all the chords together sounding like this. And then for the bass, we got White Noise, E-Bass from Nexus, Gritty Bass from Serum, Ultrasonic Sounds, and then this sub, which is the MHA bass basic sub with saturation knob, EQ, and then this is kind of where the sauce comes in on this. If I turn this off, if I put it back on. So this is a Waves C4 multiband compressor, boosting the holy hell out of the lows, but then parallel process, so it's not like overkill, and I can adjust, how much I want. And then the Oxford inflator after that, just bringing up pretty much everything prior. So the bass together. More Oxford inflator. If you can't tell, I like that plugin. And then for the kick, we got 2 layers with different EQs on them. On the group, we got a glue compressor, a drum bus, decapitator, and radiator. Because I wanted this to just be, I just wanted it to pop and sound like pretty distorted. Then these drums are, so on the group we got glue compressor, Oxford inflator, we got this clap snare group with an SSL compressor on it, just, gluing it together. These layers, and then a glass breaking on the last one. Individually, like not crazy processing. Then we got this tom. We got this fill, this ride, auto pan, these hats, which are just chopped up with the Haas effect. And then another hat comes in, just pan to the left. And then once that other one comes in, you'll see this automates these. So once this hat here comes in, the hat above it, which was centered, shoots to the right because this one's left. And then we got a couple just like random loops. Effects wise, downlifters, crowd noise, all side chained, 4 on the floor side chained, just to give some bounce, but also like side chain compressed to the kick, so it ducks the kick. So that's everything in the drop in this project file. I'm gonna open the mixdown project file, so I will see you there. Cool, so now we have the mixdown project open. So this is what the drop sounds like in the mixdown project. So a little more full, a little more powerful. So starting with the vocal chop, I then, in this project file, separated the vocal chop into 3 layers. The main one, then one in a higher octave, using Little Altar Boy, and then lower octave. And then on the group, EQ, EQ again, SSL compression, reverb, and EQ. And the reverb settings are parallel processed, of course. Atmosphere, processing wise, just some endless smile, just to like transition out at the very end, at the last drop. Atmosphere. Chords. For the chords, I added some additional EQ to that atmosphere, as well as some additional EQ to the saws and the drop pianos. So basically in these mixdown projects, and why I bounce everything out of like the first project and then start a new one, is just to get like a fresh look at everything in audio and not looking at it as MIDI, and just be able to like visualize and see, okay, like these saws are a lot louder than this atmosphere, and maybe this atmosphere is not wide enough, so let's boost the sides in the atmosphere at 1K, which I did here, or let's take out 4K, whatever. Like, just doing a lot of basically EQ and volume in another project file after producing has kind of been like one of the biggest shifts for me in the last year or so, to like really being able to dial in the last 5 to 10% that you would like normally get lazy on or forget about if you just did everything in one project file. So these chords, and you'll notice in this project file versus the last one, the pianos drop significantly in presence. They were a lot more present in the other one, and I pretty much upped the white noise presence in this side, which makes it, because the white noise is everything. That's the energy. Bass mono up to 120 hertz, and then we're soft clipping the bass in this project file. Kick, some more EQ, just taking out at 1K, but still keeping that punchiness and grittiness. On the drums, just, you know, like, look, EQ, EQ, volume, nothing there, EQ, EQ, like everything is just EQ, finding those nasty frequencies that are poking through and just cutting them out. As far as the effects go, like, I didn't even do any processing on the effects. Then I did add a guitar. Oh no, I didn't. I deleted it. But there was a guitar in the drop at some point, I guess. Then for the vocal in this project file, you'll see this is where the reverb was done. So I have this Valhalla Vintage Verb on the Huge Synth Hall preset, colors now, modes concert hall, 100% mixed because it's parallel processed. Then I have a compressor sidechain to the vocal, and what that does, I've went over it in previous videos on my channel, but what that essentially does, so when the vocal's playing, so these like black file spots, the reverb does not play, it's ducking that. But in these gaps, that's when the reverb plays. So if I solo this,
one was out every weekday.
See?
In a dad's new car. You tell me I shouldn't stress out.
And then I have automation here. So if I zoom out, so you'll see I have the amount of the wet signal automated, so in different sections it's more or less. So obviously in the verses where there's not as much going on with the production, I wanted the reverb to be more present. And then as we get into the chorus, I dropped it down an extra 9 decibels. So we went from 21 to 24 to 30. So that's all for this video. I hope you enjoyed and learned a lot. Again, I'm kind of trying to alternate the channel between like short form, quick tip, 5-minute videos and these long form track breakdowns. Please, I know I'm not getting a lot of views, but if you are a viewer, let me know what do you enjoy more, the short videos or the long videos. I appreciate everybody who watches these videos, and I hope you get a lot of value out of them. That is all for now, so I'll catch you next Wednesday.